Turned in the written statement. I didn't get a chance to read it. I gave it straight to the chief. Okay. I know Sergeant Robinson did the initial investigation. Would you like to?
We can go through your concerns one by one. I know you have a bunch of them. If that works for you.
I'd like to know, first of all, if you guys have any concerns with what happened.
Max, we're here to talk to you about your complaint and your concerns. Okay.
Okay, so do you have any concerns with what happened? You were officers, Gogol and supervisor, is that correct?
I've been a sergeant here for 5 years.
At the time in question, were you his supervisor?
Yes. I was not working that night.
So who was the person that was in charge of supervising him at that time?
That would be me.
Okay. And so you're the one that he said he couldn't call on the phone, and then called me on the phone 10 seconds after he attacked me and put me in handcuffs. So
Called you on the phone?
you. He called you.
So Golan
I
called.
asked-
You called.
He's-
I want to make sure. I want to make sure I understand real quick. That's why I'm tracking. Okay. So Golan says he can't call supervisor. Then
Golan-
he hold on. Then he arrests you for attacking him, what you say, right? And then calls Sergeant Robinson. Am I tracking?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He issued me a citation based on absolute nonsense that he concocted from his own mind. He put that citation through the crack in my window like that, and I grabbed it like that, and he took it back like that. And I'm like, what's the problem here? Is it some kind of a threat to your life if I hold the ticket before I sign it and get to read the thing? And he's like, yeah, actually it is.
Okay.
And at that point, I felt like my life was in danger because we know what police officers do when they say that their life is being threatened. And so I put my hands up and I said, can I speak to your supervisor, please? And instead of calling his supervisor, he elected to use force. That was not a reasonable use of force.
Okay. So, a supervisor was not on duty, okay?
But you were available by cell phone, as the body cam shows.
And officers are not mandated to call a supervisor every single time somebody says call a supervisor.
They're mandated to wait until they have reasonable suspicion to make an arrest, and he did not do that. And
Okay.
calling his supervisor could have prevented that. And so, if that is not your department policy, it should be.
So, when you were arrested, Officer Gogolin submitted an affidavit, a warrantless arrest affidavit to the judge, which the judge signed, stating that there was probable cause for the arrest.
And what was that cause?
The judge, through the report in the warrantless affidavit,
What he wrote in that report was, I mistakenly believed his plates were fictitious. That is a quote from that warrantless affidavit that you're referring to. And so what was the probable cause for arresting me for fictitious plates when he knew before he arrested me, and damn sure knew before he put me into the jail, that license plate belonged to that vehicle?
Max, I cannot attest to what Officer Gogolin knew.
No, but you're endorsing his probable cause.
What's that?
You're endorsing his probable cause. So
A
what was
judge
it?
did. A judge, okay? Not
And
me.
so you're saying that was a legitimate arrest, and you have no issue with it as his supervisor.
A judge found probable cause.
Okay, I know you want to blame it on the judge, but what do you think as a supervisor? Was that a lawful and legitimate arrest?
Max, it is not what I think.
It is, you're his supervisor, your opinion is relevant. The policy of this department and whether or not he was in violation of it is relevant, and you're the one who's responsible for administering that policy to him. So did he make a clean arrest that night, or did he not? Are you telling me that was a clean arrest?
It was found that there was probable cause for the arrest.
So your position is that that was a clean arrest and that he had a good reason to do it.
So,
When the plate says Honda Accord on the plate, and he's saying that I switched the plate with a Chevy Suburban, you're saying that's a legitimate arrest and he had a good reason to make it and use force while doing so. You don't want to answer the question?
I'm not gonna respond to aggression and everything.
Aggression, I'm sitting here
So
across the
Max.
table from you, speaking in a calm tone of voice,
So Max.
asking you a question. Aggression is when
Max.
somebody jumps through your windshield, grabs you by the arms, and then pins you down in a parking lot, and then takes you to jail for a crime you did not commit. That, sir, is aggression. I am not being aggressive. I am using words. That's what Officer Gogolin refused to do that night.
okay, so real quick. When a judge signs a warrantless arrest affidavit, we don't have any authority over that. The judge is a higher power than us. Okay?
He spoke to this officer before
Okay.
he submitted that affidavit. And
Okay,
that
then-
affidavit
but-
was full of lies. Is that not a violation of your
Max,
policy?
Max.
When he says there was no use of force and the prosecutor says there was,
Max,
to get that judge to sign that affidavit, he's telling lies in that affidavit? And you're telling me there's no violation of department policy, even though this officer has since been fired? What was he fired for? Lying on
nobody-
reports?
So nobody said he was fired,
I know he was fired.
okay? So, he's no longer with
Everybody,
our department.
it's public knowledge. You don't want to acknowledge it, but people know.
Okay, well, you're wrong. Okay, so, he's no longer with the department, okay? When a judge signs off on it, we don't have any say on what that judge signs off on.
You have say on what your officers do. And what your officer did was an unreasonable use of force against somebody that the courts found to be innocent.
They dismissed the charges, right? They did, that's not innocent either.
That is innocent, sir.
Not really.
No, how is it not?
It's just because for other reasons. I don't know what the reasons were.
For other reasons.
So I don't,
So what is the presumption when a defendant walks into a court of law, officer?
what is the presumption?
Mm-hmm.
That they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
No,
No.
that's not a presumption. That is a burden. What is the presumption?
What is the presumption?
Innocence is the
Oh,
presumption.
defendant.
Innocence is the presumption. And when your charges get tossed out because they are false, that is an innocent defendant, sir. And the actions that your officer took were against an innocent person because he tried to justify it in court. He tried to cast me as someone who violated the law. He failed because I was not violating the law. He was.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying, and I hear what you're saying. Okay? I don't understand what you want us to do now.
Well, first of all, I'd like you to acknowledge it when complaints are made instead of burying it, and so giving that officer more time to boost up that amazing DUI record that he certainly doesn't get from pulling people over for no reason and going on fishing expeditions. Cops like that never ever lie in reports. That's not a pattern we see everywhere all the time, right? That's not something that his supervisor should have an eye on, right? When somebody gets so many more DUIs than everybody else in the department, what is he doing different? Maybe he's pulling people over for no reason when they're just driving through town and coming up with something. And pressuring them into taking a plea deal because they're afraid of having an argument with the police department.
Officer Officer Gogolin has had reasonable suspicion for every single traffic stop he's made.
Mhm.
Police don't make mistakes,
Everybody makes mistakes,
except
everybody
Officer
can.
Gogolin.
Everybody can make mistakes.
Except that guy. He's been right every single time.
He has had reasonable suspicion for a traffic stop for every stop he has made.
Not mine. The reasonable suspicion was a fictitious plate. There was no fictitious plate. That was something that he lied about in a report. And so you know now that here's an instance of that officer lying about something that is black and white. Was that my license plate or was it not? That was my license plate. He initiated a traffic stop. He got the proof that he was wrong. And then after he got that proof, he issued a fraudulent citation. And then he tried to deprive me of my rights to know what I'm being accused of, to know what I'm signing my name to. And in response to me trying to defend those rights, he physically attacked me and falsely arrested me for a crime that he already knew and had proof in his hands I did not commit. Are you telling me he did not have that proof in his hands?
I'm not him, I wasn't there.
No, but you've seen the video, and you've seen me handing it over to him, and you've seen him sitting in the driver's seat of that police car, looking at that license plate right there. Honda Accord 1995. Anyway, let's take this guy to jail for switching that plate with a Chevy Suburban. That's on the video. You've seen it. You know he did it. And you're still sitting here telling me he had a good reason to book me into that jail. So what you're saying is you want to be a co-defendant in that lawsuit.
Like Sergeant Johnson said, what is it that you want now?
Like I said, the first thing that I want is documentary acknowledgement from your department that a complaint of a use of force has been filed against this officer so that he can be put on a Brady list for using force and lying to the court about it. The prosecutor looked at that video and said, yeah, that's a use of force. You looked at that video and said, I don't see any use of force on that video. So is the prosecutor wrong? Does the prosecutor not know the standard for what constitutes a use of force? Or do you not know the standard?
Maybe they don't.
Maybe you don't.
Maybe it was within our policies. I don't know, I didn't see the video. So if it's within our policies?
You want to watch it?
No, I don't.
No, you don't want to be aware of the facts.
No. I can watch
You don't want to be
it.
a witness in this lawsuit.
I got it in my office, okay?
So watch it.
Right now, I don't wanna watch it. Right now, okay? So hold on. Frisco 3, can I get my incident number for this?
That video shows me handing over my purchase documents.
Frisco 3 copy.
It shows your officer inspecting that license plate. Explain to me how he had probable cause to arrest me for that crime. You don't have an explanation, because he didn't.
The judge determined that he did.
The judge probably didn't read the damn document, and you know that. He rubber stamped it because a cop put it in front of him. And that's the problem here, is that everything you people do, you think it's automatic and it's going to get through. But sometimes somebody actually stands up for themselves and contests a charge. And when a lawyer actually looks at it, oh shit, that is a use of force. Oh shit, he did provide the proof. Oh shit, the cops did something wrong. So you guys are going to get sued here, and you're just asking to be a defendant, and you're asking to get me attached to your pension by doubling down and saying that he wasn't violating your policies and he wasn't doing anything you didn't train him to do.
Max.
You trained him to do that. That's what you're telling me.
Max. That's your incident number, okay, for the complaint. So we dealt with that issue. Okay, so now what's next?
What disciplinary action was taken against this officer?
That I don't have information about. I don't. Okay?
What disciplinary action was taken against this officer?
Officer Gogolin was verbally counseled regarding the incident.
Because it was a violation of policy.
No.
So how was he counseled? Did you tell him good job and call that counseling?
No. I'm sure
You
that
telling me
didn't
he
happen.
did a good job? What did you tell him?
That's internal records.
It's discovery is what it is.
Yeah, and you can go through that process to get that, but we can't discuss that.
No, because it's incriminating, and that's,
No,
I mean,
it's
you
not
could
necessarily
discuss it, you just
No,
have a
no,
policy
truly.
against it because it's gonna cost your department money, the
No,
more I
that's not
know
true.
to support my case.
That's not true. That's not true. We're not allowed to discuss certain things, right?
Per
It has to
department
go
policy,
through, it has to
that's
go
it.
through, it has to go through records.
You're not allowed to do certain things, such as arresting people for a crime you know they didn't commit. Right?
I'm sorry, one more time. I have dispatch.
You're not
talking
allowed to
here.
do certain things, such as arresting people for a crime you know they didn't commit.
Okay, so we addressed the
So,
situation of the.
explain to me
Exactly right.
how it can be the decision of a reasonable officer, because that's the standard, right? How can a reasonable officer hold a Honda Accord license plate in his hands and say that is the license plate from a Chevy Suburban that has been put on this Honda Accord?
I don't know enough about the case.
That's what happened. So
I'll
how,
do it.
so under any circumstances, how can a reasonable officer possibly think that? Once he has been provided with that license plate that says Honda Accord on it, how can any reasonable officer have reasonable suspicion and probable cause to arrest a person using force for putting a Chevy Suburban license plate on that Honda Accord when the license plate says Honda Accord on it? Where is the reasonability in there?
Now, I don't know where he got the original information.
He made it up.
Oh, not necessarily.
Yeah,
So
well,
you
you
type
tell
it
me,
in.
you tell
Okay,
me,
I'll tell
because
you.
you're the one
Real
telling me
quick.
he had
And I'm
probable
not-
cause.
listen, hey,
Where did he
Max,
get that
Max,
information that you think was so
Max,
reasonable
Max,
and
hey,
more
Max,
trustworthy than the
Max,
proof
Max,
in his
Hey,
hands?
Max,
Can you,
you
like,
asked
I
me,
mean,
you asked me, I'd like to answer your question.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he's entering it into the computer, he could have pressed a button wrong, whatever, I don't know. Okay, so when that pulls up, he's like, oh, that's a bad plate. Make
so
it stop.
I went to
No,
jail
hold on,
because he
hold on.
pressed
No,
a
no, no,
button
no.
wrong and
No,
that
no,
is
no, hold
reasonable
on.
and
Look,
justified?
you asked me how a reasonable officer could have come up with the wrong information. I just told you how they came up with the wrong information.
Oh, and so he,
Now, that's
So,
that first
okay,
point.
so-
Hold on,
so
Max, hold on.
my
Hold
license
on.
plate,
I wasn't there.
CZ933,
So
something like
I
that.
don't know
So
what
he
he
pressed a
did.
button wrong and instead got 863 MBO and returned my Chevy Suburban license plate?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see the computer in front of him. Okay, I wasn't.
Okay, but you're telling me
I'm
that
just
it was
saying
justified.
No.
He is.
I said
He is.
that that's how a reasonable officer could have come to that. Okay, now,
So
I
a
don't
reasonable
know.
officer could possibly have entered a number wrong in his computer and come back with the license plate for my other vehicle that is in Wyoming?
That I don't know. That would be a
Reason, no, that's the explanation that you're
crazy. No,
offering.
no.
That is the
Listen.
reasonable explanation that you just offered.
So I gave you an explanation
He's
for something based
specifically,
off of the information that I had that you were
okay,
giving
so
me.
here's more information.
Oh, okay.
He specifically, he didn't just say that's not your license plate. He didn't say it returned to not this car. He said you switched that plate with your Chevy Suburban and I know it because you admitted it. Does that video show me admitting to doing that? Or did he lie? Or maybe he was just mistaken. Does it concern you as your supervisor, as his supervisor, if one of your officers hears confessions mistakenly that didn't occur? Do you think that might have something to do with his impressive DUI record?
No.
Won't even consider it for a second. That's the problem. Think about it. Think about it. Think. That's what I'm asking you to do. Consider the possibility. Maybe it does. Maybe it does.
So we are no longer his supervisors because he's not here, right?
Right.
So
You
what more?
have allowed him to evade accountability and get a fresh start in some other department that doesn't know his past, that doesn't know
That's
he
not
was
true.
fired by
Hold on.
Breckenridge.
Hold on.
This is the problem. It's the same thing they do with
I
priests.
think that he was even employed with record, which I think. Anyways, so real quick, about going on with a fresh start, there are officers with Brady letters working in agencies all across the nation.
Yeah, and you guys don't see anything wrong with that. I do. That's the
I
nature
see
of the
everything wrong with
disagreement.
that,
That's
personally.
why we don't employ him.
That's right.
And so why have you
So-
not written one for the
Because it's-
officer
okay,
who lied about a use of force to the court
It's way
under
more than-
your supervision?
It's way more than that, okay? It's a very long process to get a Brady letter and given to an officer. A long process. Okay? And because he is no
You should
longer
be
here.
initiating that process against Sergeant Robinson at this point after he viewed that video and said, I don't see a use of force on that video. Because that's a lie. That is a goddamn straight-faced bullshit blue line lie that you are telling to protect a violent action by another cop. And that, sir, is the problem, and that's what's getting you.
Done?